All right, so a bit of a piece of news came out yesterday about the PlayStation Plan's new service to take on Xbox Game Pass. I have some thoughts on all this and some good that could come from this, but also some bad. So at first, I had heard about this through Twitter from the leaky people that put out the information about the leaks and rumors and all that such. And then I was like, I don't know how much truth there is going to be because the way that they were thrown out there was basically that it's going to be a full on Game Pass thing to where if you have Game Pass, you get the games day one. Not, I don't see PlayStation doing that at all because PlayStation actually likes to pay their developers for one thing, but also PlayStation likes to fund creating more than just the next project. They like to try and innovate and push the boundaries of everything. So let's read into this just a little bit here, shall we? So PlayStation plans a new service. Oh, and this is also written by Jason Schreier, which I would say he has probably a little more credit. I've seen developers and companies and such actually double down and like say that he knows more what he's talking about than say like a Nibble on Twitter, or Nibble, however you say their name, one of the main leakers that a lot of people end up following. But Sony Group Corp's PlayStation division is planning a new subscription service to compete with rival Microsoft Corp's Game Pass, which just means that Sony is looking at trying to keep up with the Game Pass craze because Game Pass sells a lot. PlayStation Now could sell better. We'll get into that though. According to people familiar with Sony's plans, documents reviewed by Bloomberg, the service codenamed Spartacus will allow PlayStation owners to pay a monthly fee for access to a catalog of modern and classic games. That's not day one releases though, so it's not going to be like if another Last of Us or a Ratchet and Clank or a Jack and Daxter or a SOCOM or whatever you have, anything that's PlayStation Studios titles, that is not going to be like pay $1 to be able to play the game on release, like we're seeing with like Halo Infinite campaign mode or such. So the people who asked not to be identified, this always like if it's anonymous sources, I'm like, I don't know about this because they weren't authorized to speak to the press about the plans, so somebody could potentially get fired. And these this is the other thing too of like if all these plans aren't actually finalized and they're still going through the dealings of licensing dealings and everything to have the games on here. So say they are going to bring some like older titles, which again, we'll get into this, but if they're bringing like older PS1 and 2 titles, to a lot of those are going to be third party titles. PlayStation do not own the license rights. They have to basically, rent the license rights for the PlayStation Now subscription service. The offerings will likely be available on the smash hit, weird writing there by Jason, PlayStation 4, which has sold more than 116 million units. Its elusive successor, PlayStation 5, which launched more than a year but is still difficult to buy due to supply chain issues, which is totally legit. There is a ton of people who have PS5s at this point because the numbers of the player base is wicked high on the PlayStation 5. Actually, more so than what you would believe just by hearing it by ear of people like complaining about it. There's a ton of people on the PS5. If you look at PS5 exclusive games and you go into trophies, if you go in and look at trophy percentages, it's not like there's only a small percentage of people actually getting trophies on PS5 exclusive games. So if you go by those numbers, those metrics, you have to have people running a PS5 to have PS5 versions of games to actually get those trophies. So it's a good way of kind of checking out to see, how people are doing that. When it launches, expected in the spring, the service will merge Sony's two existing subscription plans, PlayStation Plus, PlayStation Now. Currently, PS Plus is required for most online multiplayer games and offers 3 monthly titles, while PS Now allows users to stream or download older games. So that right there is interesting. I know that there's a lot of people that were like, man, I really wish they would go back to the free online kind of way that Sony did it before, and especially where a lot of games, I think Warzone and Fortnite are free to play online overall. You don't have to have a PlayStation Plus subscription on that. Don't hold me to that. I think that's how that works. I know that there's a few games out there where you don't have to have PlayStation Plus. You can just go online with them. So this was initially just make it so every single game would be free online, and then you're basically just playing for, or you're paying for PlayStation Now, and then you're pretty much paying for the access to the online is there, but you're more or less just paying for the free games that you get every month, which okay. Um, Online mode, while PlayStation Now allows users to do. We just read that. Okay. Documents reviewed by Bloomberg suggest that Sony plans to retain the PlayStation Plus branding, but phase out PlayStation Now. Which, this is weird. This is weird. Why would they phase out PlayStation Now? I get PlayStation Now is a product of kind of the darker days of Sony, where they had a lot of like bad press going on. For like the PS3 was dark days. Especially around like when PlayStation Home was around and everything. PS Home was cool. I actually jumped in and did some stuff in it too. There was a lot of really cool events, but around the PlayStation business side of things, it was just a lot of not great business deals happening. It wasn't that people were, like trying to sabotage Sony or anything. It was just more or less they didn't know how to make the great deals happen. Details on Spartacus may still not be finalized, but documents reviewed by outline service with 3 tiers. The first would include existing PlayStation Plus benefits. The second would offer a larger catalog of PS4 and eventually PS5 games. So I'm guessing that this second tier, again, it's not going to be day one releases on the PS5 games. It's going to be stuff like your Demon Souls, maybe your Ratchet and Clank. What else is Returnal? It's going to be those games that were first party studio titles, or actually, it would also be PS5 versions of games too. So re-releases like Neo has the PS5 version. What is it? There's other games that had Spider-Man is a great example of it. I have a PS5 version of the game, so I would say that it's going to be the older catalog like that, which is fine. If there's an easier entrance for people to checking out those titles, then cool. But it feels like that they're pretty much going to take what worked really well and I know that there's a ton of people that when they got the PS5, they went into there's a catalog of games on the PS5 where if you click into it, you get this whole catalog for free. And so it's like this jump starter of if you know somebody else who has a PS5 and you log them, if you log into their account and do it on your PS5, you can get them a whole bunch of, a whole stack of games for free. But only do that for people that you can trust, with information and everything. But that catalog type of thing right there, if that expanded to having PS1, 2 games on there, and then they phase out PlayStation Now altogether, okay. But at the same time, I'm like, what if we don't see too many more games come to it because there's not like a subscription based service there like a Game Pass? The third tier would add extended demos, so trials of games and betas, game streaming, which is already there in PlayStation Now. I still am very much against game streaming. I think it's just a really piss poor way of experiencing a game because there's so much lag, and you can have so many things go wrong with the game when you're trying to stream it versus just actually picking it up on sale or something and experiencing it full throttle that way. A library of classic PS1, 2, 3, and PSP games. So this right here really screaming like Nintendo's what is it? NES, SNES, Sega lineup that they have. Like if you get if you get the online service, then you get all those games in a library for free, and then you can buy the controller that makes it, like the Sega Genesis controller and all that stuff. So that's what that's screaming to me. It's not that really has nothing to do with Xbox, because Xbox, in all honesty, let's be honest here, Game Pass does not have a whole lot of older OG Xbox titles. It has a whole bunch of third-party indie titles on it. That's what Game Pass is selling. A representative for PlayStation didn't immediately respond to a request for comment on that. I can guarantee you that's what it's going to be, is like Nintendo's library, which is cool. That's one thing that I've been stressing whenever I do a retro gaming nights on my Twitch channel. I've been stressing that PlayStation could really use inside of PlayStation Now, or somehow bring back, your old Silent Hill titles. I don't like Silent Hill, but a lot of people do. So that would be really cool to have that there. I had to play them. Basically, I modded the PS3 and made it so I could run back compat that way because there's just no way of playing those games. Of like the games that aren't available on the PlayStation Network. That's, you have to do it that way, or you have to go on the computer and do a emulation back compat type of thing. Um, Okay, although the PlayStation has outsold the Xbox in recent years, Sony has lagged behind Microsoft on the subscription front. Yes, because it's two different, and I cannot stress this enough. PlayStation and Xbox are in two separate paths in the gaming industry. One is solely focused, like Microsoft is solely focused on selling subscriptions. They don't really care as much for hardware innovations. Sony is on the path of like, let's push the hardware, let's push the game. The imagination of what the developers can make happen in games. That's the reason why you have your haptics. That's the reason why you have, there's a reason why this thing has so much going on with it, because they're really trying to push just how many senses you can get out of it. The vibration haptics, the trigger effects, the speaker in it, the lights, all that stuff is Sony trying to like push the industry forward one way or the other. Where Microsoft is like, okay, let's make this thing as affordable as possible. On the flip side of that, when you make it affordable as possible, there's not as much funding that goes back to the developers. And so then you can't push, the developers can only do what developers can do with the technology that they have, because you're not giving them enough funding to push forward, the industry. Hopefully that makes sense to people. And I'm not trying to be fanboy over one or the other. They're both the companies are doing something similar. It's just Microsoft is really pushing for third-party game developers to come in and help pad their library instead of them making their own Xbox Studio titles. There's very few Xbox Studio titles out there. Forza is not really pushing the envelope so much as, it can have 10 out of 10 reviews and everything, but it's doing the same thing as all the other Forza games did. Same thing with Gears, same thing with Halo. They're all doing the same thing as they did 10 years ago. So Microsoft's Game Pass, which is often dubbed the Netflix of video games, there's nothing wrong with that, has more than 18 million subscribers. I am part of that 18 million subscribers right now. I have it going on the PC, and I've been having a good time with it. I have nothing against Game Pass and the selection of games that they have on there. The thing is, I've had bigger experiences of adventures on PlayStation now, just because they do have more of the PlayStation oriented titles, but that's just what I'm into, is PlayStation side of things. It allows users to pay $10 to $15 a month for unlimited access. Xbox has built its overall strategy around the service in recent years, which again, 10 to 15 bucks a month is a good, it's a good entry point to have access to it. A lot of times you can get away with doing for like 3 months for like $1 though. And like right now, I'm going to end up checking out Halo Infinite. It's totally legal, which it feels like it's something illegal that I'm doing, but I'm going to be able to check out Halo Infinite's story mode for $1. That seems so ridiculous on how in the hell is a developer going to get paid for this if if Xbox is doing that. But the reason why is because the developers get a bag of cash, boom, and then, okay, now we can have your game on the platform, which the problem there is if you don't have people, actually buying the game, spending full price on it, then you don't have the return of profits from it. There's no way. It's mathematically impossible to have a return of profits other than like microtransaction the shit out of the game. And everybody keeps complaining about microtransactions. So the same thing that you're complaining about, you're setting up for it to happen with Game Pass. Xbox has also made big acquisitions such as Bethesda Softworks last year for $7.5 billion, with the goal of bolstering the Game Pass library. Now, okay, so Bethesda versus the Bluepoint acquisition. So here's where, again, it's a prime example of it. So Bethesda Softworks, third-party developer, that is not Microsoft Studios. Even if they are owned by Microsoft, they are not Microsoft Studio. They are Bethesda. They are Bethesda third party. They just end up having everything, basically exclusive rights go over to Microsoft to put everything onto their Game Pass. And then you have Sony acquiring Bluepoint to help fund projects, and they've also done this before with like acquiring the exclusive rights to Street Fighter V and help that game actually be made. They've been known for pushing funding to their developers to make sure that stuff gets made the right proper way. God of War, look at the Raising Kratos documentary. When stuff was going sideways, they were like, okay, you guys need more funding and time. Here you go. Make this thing a classic. And that's what it turns out being. So it's two different approaches by two different companies that are, like I said, on two different paths in the gaming industry. Sony is also putting resources into expanding its efforts in cloud gaming. The people familiar with plans said Microsoft xCloud. Okay, that cloud gaming thing is going to be such an afterthought in the next 10 years. I'm serious on this. VR can make a serious comeback. I know VR has been like it's there, but it's definitely in the shadows. But for sure, I know that Sony is working on new development studios to make even more VR titles. Cloud gaming, whether you don't have a console or you do have a console, cloud gaming is not good. If you're on the run and you're on the road or whatever the case may be, and you're running that thing off from like a 5G connection, even, it's not good. It's latency ridden. It's like a full second on the controls. I've tried many times to run games off from cloud-based gaming, and it never runs good. No matter any setup that you do, it never runs good. I wish in a sense, I wish it did, because then you wouldn't have to download every single game. You could just try it, and like you can try games, but again, they don't run too well. So yeah, like cloud-based gaming just feels like it's just kind of a waste of resources that they could push into bringing back classic titles and either remaster them or making them compatible for the current gen. That's what I would do. I would take all the money in this cloud gaming and I would put it into making sure that old libraries, so the historic game series, could be funded properly to make them run very well on modern day consoles. Because it's not just as easy as take this file, drag it over here, and boom, it plays. Some games don't run well on the modern day CPUs. So you gotta go in there and recode them slightly and everything, as far as I know, to make them work, and function with every single system that's out there. You're talking, if it's a game that was on every single platform, you're talking a PS4, 5, PS4 Pro, a Xbox One, Xbox One X, an Xbox One S, a Series S, a Series X. If it's on Switch, then Switch, and then possibly a new version of Switch if that comes out. You're talking about a lot of platforms that a classic game can possibly, be ported onto. It depends on who has the license rights to have it. So, like I said, all that cloud gaming stuff, take that money and put it right into resources of conserving this older generation of, like the classic library of PS1, 2, and PSP games. How cool would it be to be able to run your PSP games on your PS4? It takes money and funding and development time to make that happen, though. So, yeah, there's some good, some bad coming out of this. Am I against seeing a 3-tier solution to all this? What I think I'd be against is PlayStation going full on subscription base like Xbox is. And I know that the industry is starting to try and turn into that way. The problem is it's going to hurt the developers in the long run, as we've already started to kind of see with indie developers over on the Xbox side of things. Like, I've heard that there is a lot of people that are in good situations with the Game Pass thing, but they've only had like maybe 1 or 2 titles at the most come out on Xbox, because the Game Pass thing has only been around for how many years now? All right, so Game Pass has been around since 2017, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 1 going on to almost 5 years of Game Pass. In that time, there has been seriously 1 or 2 games, indie games, that have been put out, and maybe 1 game where it is like fully, the funding is coming from Game Pass, because games take 2 to 4 years to develop. AAA titles take about 5, sometimes 6, 7, 8 years to develop. So, like I said, either which way you go, Um, we haven't seen the long-term lasting effects of Game Pass and that model of doing business. But again, if you just common sense do the math on it, if people are not buying the game at full price and that funding is not going, I mean, sure, they're getting the bag of cash to begin with for how the Game Pass thing works, but at the same time, it's like if they want to make a sequel and they're not getting the long term investment. I mean, so the best thing about Game Pass is people try the game before they actually do buy it, and there has been a lot of instances where indie developers they get their game sold because people have tried it in Game Pass and they actually want to buy the full thing in case their Game Pass runs out after the first month or whatever. So, unless the industry keeps going in that direction where people actually come back to do it, I guess the best thing about Game Pass and PlayStation doing kind of a Game Pass thing is it makes developers have to give you a really good game that is fully functional and finished out. That argument of the thing, or people are not going to flip it over. They're going to play on a subscription base and not care to buy the actual game, like Avengers. Avengers. It was on one of the subscription things. I forget which one it was now, and you could just play it for free. I played Avengers Story Mode for free because it was on a subscription service. I can't remember which one I played it on, but I played through the whole thing. I think it was on PS Now, if I'm not mistaken. I played through the whole thing. Never actually bought the game because I finished the campaign mode. I'm like, that was pretty generic. Yeah, and I just never looked back at it. There has been other ones like a car mechanic simulator that you see me stream before. That one was we got the DLC for that and everything, and actually bought the next game afterwards. So again, it's very hit or miss whether this is going to actually work in the future. I still think PlayStation really needs to keep doubling down. It's either that or it's if you're an AAA big budget studio, so one of the PlayStation studios, big brand name companies or development studios, then you're going to get all the funding. And the indie titles or the indie developers and third party titles are not going to get the funding. It could turn into that too. And then basically the third party titles are going to be like, well, here's this bulk of cash to be on our subscription based system, and if you don't like it, then tough, then you just won't be on our platform. Like there's so many things that can go wrong with the subscription based service that it makes me go, I don't know if we fully want this type of thing to be happening. It'd be great to see the classic titles come back, absolutely 100% tenfold. Bring back classic games and give us make this thing like the Nintendo side, like how they do it. That'd be awesome. But overall, I don't know. It's some good, some bad in this. I have mixed feelings on them trying to change something that's already working. And I think that's the other thing too. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Jeez, Sony. So yeah. If you use Game Pass or PlayStation Now, throw it in the comments section and let's see how many people actually subscribe to Game Pass and PlayStation Now, and how many people would be interested in actually subscribing to it in the future if PlayStation goes down the pathway of trying to add more subscriptions to their services. So yeah, go check out the Twitch channel. I'm streaming on there regularly all the time. Of course, go check out the rest of the Werewolf channel for more videos and Let's Talks and all that stuff. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see ya next time.